Hello, Mechwarriors, and welcome to the Mechbay, where we fix your mech and fix your game. What's going on, Mechwarriors? I'm your host, Josh, and today we're talking about whatever help your CO could get for the rest of the company. That's right, we're talking about battlefield support, artillery, and airstrikes, and all the other mines that they could throw down before you guys got to the battlefield. But first, as always, let's talk about some hobby progress, some hobby news, and some fan mail. Okay, so hobby progress. What is everyone up to? I've had a light week, so Dustin or Denham, one of you guys roll with it first.
I've been playing my games 2 or 3 a week still. I have been cleaning off my desk in preparation to paint another batch. We'll see how that goes. That's about it. Yeah.
I'm mostly this week I've just been fixing my 3D printer. So I've been doing a little bit of something else, but I'll talk about it after we do the news segment.
So we really don't have any hobby progress is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, we've been lazy.
That's pretty much correct, yeah.
Okay. I glued together my Mad Cat TC and my Hammerhead.
Nice.
Together as one conglomeration of...
I actually thought about that. And you know what? I knew you would say it, and I did dry fit it, and I was like, I do kind of like the Mad Cat with hammer hands.
I know, it looked cool.
Yeah. The Hammer Cat,
yep.
The Timberhead, like whatever combination of Franken mech you want, it works. But yeah, so I dry fitted it. It looks fine. I wasn't willing to commit either one to a Franken mech, but instead I did take my Timberwolf TC and cut the upper lasers off, the ER mediums, because I'm trying to do the kind of close to the A, but also the Blessed Order variant, which is just 2 PPCs and 2 SRM6s. So
it's pretty close to the A.
It's pretty close to the A.
Yeah, I really need to, like, the perfect ones are like Loki arms. That's what you want to put, Loki arms on your Mad Cat. And those are the ones that look the best. So I'll probably grab another Loki and cut that one to pieces.
Yeah, the TC's arms are a little wide. Like, they're very not close to the chest, which is how I normally like my mech arms.
Yep.
The TC looks kind of like a bird. It's about to take off.
It's a lanky MMA fighter just waiting for its debut fight.
Well, the TC arms remind me too much of the original Vulture arms. The Mad
That's
Dog.
why, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And without the elongated body, the Timberwolf body is too round, so it doesn't look right.
So yeah, not too much hobby progress.
But what was I going to say? But yeah, what did you guys think about the sculpt quality of the Mad Cat TC? So
the Hammerhead ones were a little bit wonky, but Catalyst acknowledged that and has a plan for replacing the torsos for people who have that issue.
For the Hammerhead, not for the TC.
For the Hammerhead, yes. My TC was fine. I had no problem with either of my TCs. They both looked fine.
Yeah, I'm lame. I didn't get either one of them, so
that's fine. You've got enough Mad Cats in a pile of shame.
I have a lot of mechs in general. Josh is like, I know you.
I needed the parts.
A lot of mechs. I know. But I will say at first I thought this was the lower quality one, but after a while I kind of got like it's somewhere in the middle. Like, I feel like this is just the quality we're to expect out of Monster Fight Club. Hopefully. I mean, I know a lot of people were turned off of the Hammerhead, but I think now with production issues kind of smoothing out, I think everyone can wait for Wave 1 to reach people, see how the quality is from like online reception comments and stuff, and then make the call on if it's worth it or not to them.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I'm willing to wait. I'm willing to buy everything they do just to keep them in business. But I have problems, and everyone knows it.
I have a problem, and I'm okay with it.
That's right.
But yeah,
the first step is acceptance, and I didn't go to any other steps.
Yeah, so that's it for hobby progress for me, and it doesn't sound like either of you got any hobby progress in.
No, I prepped, though. A lot of prep, zero actual hobby progress.
That's fine. We had a lot of other stuff happen this week.
Boy, do we.
Yeah. So
why, Josh? What are you talking about?
So let's move on to the news sections. So in BattleTech news, you may have noticed, but we have a new logo. Woo!
Woo!
I would like to thank Alan Blackwell for designing and sketching the Greyhound mech, which is essentially the same mech slightly tweaked from my Pimp My Mech episode.
That was a good episode.
It was a good episode. And I thought, let's just get Alan Blackwell, world-renowned Battletech artist, to actually put his pen to some paper or whatever 3D stylus to tablet. Yeah, there you go.
Tablet. Yeah.
Art tablet.
To all our listeners, I just want to say that I enjoy making custom mechs. Going to a world famous artist and having them create a custom version of the art for your mech every time is not really a part of the natural process. But if that's what you do, then go for it.
I mean, part of it was I can't imagine what a custom mech looks like until like it's solidified. Like,
I think we had that discussion on that episode, and I remember going, "That's not how I do it at all." But that's why you have an Alan Blackwell custom sketch.
Yeah, it's too nebulous. So I asked someone with professional mech drawing experience to draw it. I was like, "Here's what I envisioned, but I can't like give you any true concept." So I literally just sent him like the vision board of all the mechs I like, and I was like, it's like all these smushed together and distilled down with all the
it's
good
like this
parts.
is 17 pictures of mongooses and black knights. What are you talking about?
You joke, but there were like 3 mongooses in that Google Doc.
Well, as the mascot of the Mechbay, that Greyhound looks fantastic.
And then I'd love to thank the graphic designer, my wife, for actually doing the logo part of it. Because you know what? I tried to find actual graphics designers and I couldn't find exactly what I wanted. And she was like, I can do this. You realize this, right? Like to thank, like I said, both of them for helping get our logo up to snuff. So that's a, quote, copyright free. We got a mascot mech now. And a professional logo to boot. So
on.
So expect to see the Greyhound mech and the Mechbay logo slapped on every surface you can find shortly.
All the stickers.
Yeah, t-shirts, hats, shot glasses. You know it. I'm going to have it on everything.
So what other kind of news is there, Josh?
We saw Catalyst announce essentially what they're going to be having on hand at Gen Con next month. So they got a good sizable chunk, and we finally get to see what that last mech in the Alpha Strike box is that everyone was trying to figure out because it wasn't on the box art. P.S. It's a Warhawk, and we're all kind of,
Hey, there's already a Warhawk.
Exactly. So,
yeah.
But we did get a deeper look inside the Alpha Strike box, and it is going to have its own mini Alpha Strike battlefield support deck included in it.
Right. So mini just as in it's tailored for the Alpha Strike experience, which is slightly different than the classic experience.
Correct.
Slightly.
But as of right now, the battlefield support deck is only for classic. Yeah.
Because it's tough to put minefields down on an Alpha Strike board.
So they'll have the mercenary themed beginner box with the Vindicator. They'll have Empire Alone copies. They'll have Techno Readout Dark Age, a Time of War reprint.
Yep.
Do people play RPGs here? Like, I don't know. Maybe.
I played a Time of War.
Oh,
it was a while ago, and it probably won't happen again for a very long time. But
I've put years into it.
And of course, Counters Pack Battle Force.
Yep, I got one of those.
I know.
We got reprints.
Lots of reprints.
Lots of reprints. We got, I think it's a new book. Land of Dreams is out. Randall N. Bill's novel. You can get it print on demand and in ebook form, as most things these days are available.
Yeah. Also, A Question of Survival, the new Clan Ghost Bear versus Jade Falcon book. I hear that's actually really good. So
yeah, I'm excited about it. I haven't not read it yet, but I like some Ghost Bears eating some Jade Falcons. Nom nom.
Yeah. I don't want to go too into spoilers, but it sounds like it's setting up some later Ill Clan drama, which I love.
Yeah.
Drama.
Well, I love drama in the universe.
We do. We love that drama.
If everybody's not fighting everybody else, then that seems like a wasted opportunity for a Battletech setting.
Yeah. One of the cool new things they'll have at Gen Con is 10 new metal dice pucks. So they'll have the Republic of the Sphere, which I think is a little weird considering they just killed off the Republic of the Sphere. So it's like, we're selling you the last vestiges of their Empire.
Oh, come on. No, because if people like the faction, then whether it's there or not, like I've got a Smoke Jaguar set. You don't hear me complaining that, they may or may not have killed them off. There's a few mercenary groups that may or may not exist anymore. I have no problems with them making a Republic of the Sphere dice puck. I think that's great.
I mean, how are you going to roll dice for your RAF insurgency force in the Ill Clan era? You need your Republic dice for that. So they're still out there.
Yeah, so we've got a Republic of the Sphere, Clan Sea Fox, Rasselhog Dominion, Raven Alliance, Magistry of Canopus, Kellhounds, Hanson's Rough Riders, Avanti's Angels, Blackthorns, and Comancho's Caballeros.
I was surprised that they had Caballeros in there. I was like, what? Okay.
They've got some good novels about them, so that doesn't surprise me too much.
We've read a couple in book club.
So there'll be a bunch of other stuff. There'll be displays of new games, and they've got an update for the BattleTech Tactical Companion app. So you'll get some more quality of use upgrades, only if you're on iPad.
It's so problem.
Still Apple exclusive. That is all right. Well, I mean, what do you do?
Well, I hope that's for development and they branch out later. But they've got so much competition with Flex, and that runs on almost anything.
I've seen it ran on a potato. Back in my day, we had 2 sticks on a rock, and we ran Flex sheets off of it. And we had to share the rock.
One of those sticks was a pencil, and the other one was piece of paper. Yeah.
That's just regular BattleTech.
That was back in my day, yeah.
But yeah, so there'll be some regular gaming. They'll be showcasing regular BattleTech, their Leviathans, Alpha Strike, and then their Shadowrun. So you can find all that this upcoming weekend if you're in the Gen Con local area.
And you have tickets.
That's the big part.
Well, you have to tell me about this thing you have written here, the Ironwind metal casting issues.
Yes, so this has been I want to say, creeping development that I've slowly seen is some of the newer Ill Clan era, like Hero Falcon, Carrion Crow, have some like cracking is the best way to describe it on the actual metal. Yeah.
Interesting.
And it's thick enough that it could be an actual panel line if it was intended to, but it's not. It's just cracking of the mold and deformation.
Does this have anything to do with Malvina?
Probably.
Okay.
But I wasn't aware of the issue until they announced that they've corrected the issue. But
no kidding.
If you have had that issue, I would definitely be contacting Ironwind Metals to see if you can get it exchanged if they're now fixing it, because these looked like drastic, not something that I'm paying $15 for a brand new model for.
They're good people. They'll make it right.
Yep.
Besides, Battlefield support decks are back in stock and should be hitting retail shelves this week.
Yeah, that is true. Exciting. Though this, by the way, is the corrected print with the missing cards not missing anymore.
That heavy airstrike. Life just ain't the same unless you got a heavy airstrike in your pocket.
It's important. The heavy airstrike is one of the best.
So real quick, it looks like all of the Battlefield support decks that are coming out right now are still Gen 1 reprints. So there is no heavy airstrike in them. And we'll talk about that later. But all right, now for some fan mail. So first we've got Bill Saunders. Bill writes, "Great podcast, gents. Listen to episode 36, and yes, I care about the Battle Force tokens."
See?
This is the plan. Escalating size campaign with minimum 6 missions, modified as needed or to taste. 3 at classic BattleTech Lance level, then 2 at Alpha Strike Company level, then 1 glorious grand final battle at Battle Force level. Because Battle Force needs love too. Yours truly, a concerned Mechwarrior.
I am so down with that. I mean, not a Tuesday night game, but say a Saturday and Sunday event, maybe.
I'm just like, how do these Battle Force people find my email? Like, is that easy to find?
We give it out to them.
No.
Give it out.
No. But thanks,
I
Bill.
appreciate the love. Great idea.
And another one, Sam B writes, "Your podcast is awesome. Been a fan since I started listening all the way back on May 31st, 2022. Man, they got that HPG date right then and there when they got the Comstar bill. But been slowly working my way through the backlog, currently on number 25, Civil War, and I really love the show and I'm a huge fan of the Discord. Please keep up the great work and looking forward to finally getting into the spot where I'm just sitting around waiting for the next episode to drop."
Oh, shucks.
And this next part's for you. And for Dustin, a special hate mail section.
Oh, no. What did I do this time?
I hate how big you guys are into the painting of the minis. I've never been into that. I just want to roll dice. But now, thanks to all of your persistent talking about it, building a great community of support on the Discord with the Hobby Progress channel, I'm committed to buying up the necessary materials to paint my starter 8-pack from a game of Armored Combat.
I hope you have
Peer
fun.
pressure. Peer pressure. Peer pressure.
Paint or
Know that
die.
The
Paint or
primer
die.
gray is a valid unit color choice.
Honestly,
Throw
you're
a
like,
wash on there too.
yeah, nobody's asking you to like fully commit and showman piece, belongs in a museum. I just make it whatever color you want and just let your imagination take you the rest of the way.
Yep. Nobody's going to look at your mini and be like, ugh, I hate that. I'm not playing with you. Nobody.
Yeah. Nobody. No, I've never had it happen. But thanks for writing in, Sam. Keep on listening, keep on painting, and we'll keep on broadcasting. All right. Games played. All right. Who's gotten the most games in this week, considering there was no painting?
Oh, that's true. I only had 2 in this past week.
Oh, man, just 2?
Yeah.
Dustin, did you beat him?
No, I got 1 game in.
Hey, you know
Hey,
what?
that's great for Dustin.
Yeah, let's
Yes,
go
it
with
is.
Dustin's game first.
Yeah, it showed up to just like we got the Sunday thing going on locally, and I played a reintroduction game. So there are plenty of people who played back in like the early 90s, and life happens, and this was another person like that, and so I ran them through just all the basics again and getting them back up to speed. So hope to see him out again. And I mean, if you don't play intro games, you don't get new players to play against. So always happy to do it.
Yeah, you were ready for like a big Ill Clan era game, and you were like, nope, I got to get fresh blood first.
That's right.
You got to step down. You got to.
I'm investing. It's an investment.
Exactly.
I'm looking for that return on interest, man, or return on investment, that ROI.
They're intro tech today. They're Ill Clan tomorrow.
That's right. That's right. How about you, Denham?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of trial positions for people over at the store, getting ready for whenever we end up doing the Tukiyid campaign. We need to have everybody, who's the star colonels, who's the star commanders, star captains, and lowly Mechwarriors.
Josh isn't going to play in the Tukiyid campaign, is he?
I hope so. I need some Comstar players.
You need your one local Comstar player with actually painted Comstar.
Yeah, he is necessary.
Who here out of the whole community is willing to just take the brunt of the clan force?
Josh.
You'd like it.
Yeah. Who's only going to play Intersphere mechs?
Hey, you get a lot of battlefield support points, though.
That's right, and that's also what we're talking about tonight. But I do have a question. What's the distribution? Because you've actually been doing like actual trial positions, so 3
Correct.
versus 1. What would you say? Because it's Star...
It's Mechwarrior,
Mechwarrior,
Star Commander, Star Captain, Star Colonel.
Mm-hmm. And you're doing, if they get it all the way, they get all the way. But
Oh yeah.
how many are you seeing go up, and how many are you seeing fall?
All right. So most people make it to Mechwarrior. A couple people don't quite, and they'll have to do their trial again because their cadet just wasn't worthy enough, or took 14 points of damage to the cockpit due to unlucky rolls.
It happens.
It does. It happens quite a lot. So a couple of them wash out. Most of them are Mechwarriors. We've had quite a few Star Commanders. The occasional Star Captain. I think maybe 3 Star
nice.
Captains. And we had one fellow, I am embarrassed to say I forget their name right now, but they were on the fast track to Star Colonel. They had already initiated the Grand Melee, and they had taken a medium laser hit to the cockpit a few turns before, but otherwise their mech was in great shape. Lots of armor, plenty of weapons, lots of weak targets ready for the picking.
I know how this ends.
And yep, he made it. He failed a PSR and fell on his cockpit and just smashed his poor pilot into little bits, which means that he does not get to keep his Star Captain rank because his pilot died.
Dead.
So he has to start over.
He burned so bright.
Right. If your mech is destroyed but your pilot survives, you get to keep the last rank you earned. So if on that turn that he fell over, he had been able to take out one more mech and his pilot had survived, he would have been our first and only Star Colonel.
So you're seeing like half the people can make Mechwarrior, like half of those people can make Star Commander, the next one's Star Captain.
Right, Star Captain is super rare, and then Star Colonel
and that
almost
2% top of the Sibco Rise Star can make
his
it.
super Rise Star. Yep, very very much so.
Except the fate was not on their side.
Right, it was, but it was fun to watch. Like we had a group around the table watching this, watching how this ended.
Stakes were high.
It was fantastic. I can't wait to see our next person get that close.
Any other games, or is that pretty much it?
That's pretty much it. I'll be running one tomorrow, but that's tomorrow, so it doesn't count.
That's true. I got 2 games in. I played a local player coming in hot off their Coastal Carolina Battletech tournament win. Congratulations to Obsidian Anubis on the Discord for winning that. And I played them in a essentially bunker busting mission where each of us had 2 bunkers and we had to destroy them. And I got my butt kicked. I'll be the first one to admit that. I lost my Mad Cat TC first time taking it out. Takes a headshot, and I was like, "That's not that bad." Falls down, falls on the face. I was like, "Oh,
all right." Well, it is like the
weak head armor. That weak head armor,
right in the middle of its torso.
It's like it goes down, face first.
Yep.
Like the first thing it's hitting is the face.
Crunch.
That game was actually kind of weird because I was losing mechs fast enough that I had to completely shift gears and go purely to hitting the objectives. And I had a 6-man squad of battle armor just jumping, hoping they could hit, and like literally doing the math. Okay, I need to roll this much per turn before I start losing battle armor. And it came down to me losing by 1 point.
Oof.
Losing the battle by 1 point, but losing everybody except one of my mechs, which was almost legged and just crawling off the battlefield. I killed none of theirs.
Ooh, wow.
But it was still a great game.
Good.
I also got a 3500 BV game in.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, that the opponent specifically requested a quick low BV game, and I was like, well, low BV doesn't always mean quick. I'll be the first one to say that, but They were like, I just want to take like 3 intro-ish mechs. And I was like, okay. So they had a Hunchback, a Thunderbolt, and a Bushwhacker. And
see, yeah, it was good because if you play in low BV and you take just nothing but lights, that's when you get the quick game that's actually long. But that's good. So you guys got like heavier, just less heavy stuff. But you took a lot of combined arms, right?
I took 1 mech, 2 vehicles, and a battle armor squad.
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't tell me until I was leaving the house that he wanted a low BV, and I was like, look, man, I got to print off sheets for this. So I went with what I got, and I took a demon tank, an Uller, a purifier squad, and a bolus stealth tank, I should say.
I would say that, yeah, that's one of those had stealth, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't really come into effect because we only played on 1 map sheet, so...
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And like I said, the skills were weird, but there was a lot of like 20-point rounds going around. Yeah. So it's like you either hit or you don't.
Yeah.
Heavy gauze on a vehicle, I guess that's kind of easier to use than on a mech.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't have to do any of the PSR rolling to see if I stayed standing from the recoil. I did have to like double check that the heavy gauze is so big they had to weld the turret in front only. And I was like, wait, this mech or this vehicle that has a turret can't use the turret function.
Is that indicated on the sheet in any way?
Yeah, it doesn't have a turret. Like,
okay, good, all right.
But it traditionally has a turret, so I was like, okay, I'm using the actual model. Why can I not? And then I had to look, and I was like, oh, it's too big.
I love it.
But
that's awesome.
Yeah, I got my first successful swarm to mech kill. That felt good that game.
The first one is always the best. Then you're like, wow, these things really do rock.
I'm like rolling to see like where my battle armor is scrambling on the mech like ants. Like the next turn, like, okay, right torso, left torso. And then it was like right torso, rear. Oh yeah, get in there, boys.
They're crawling all over me, Captain.
Yeah. It's a lot of damage, a lot of potential crits.
Yeah. But if it had gone on one more turn, he was willing to jump his Thunderbolt into a bottomless pit on the fungal sheet just to get rid of my battle armor.
That would do it.
Yeah, because then I would have lost because my Uller's ultra autocannon had already jammed turn 1, and I was like, okay, we're fighting downhill, boys.
Didn't you? So your Uller's AC 10, right? Jammed, or Ultra AC 10 and jammed turn 1. And then what was it? The last game you played with your Uller, it got its arm shot off?
It has never had more than one successful round of shooting in a game with the AC 10. And I'm like, but it never dies like then. It just takes the whole right arm off or something.
Yeah. And then no one ever shoots at it again because why bother?
Yeah. Oh, they put AC 20s into its legs. It died.
Oh. My poor Kit Fox, my squeezing arm.
But I will say that demon tank with a heavy Gauss rifle and a targeting pewter, if you can get a mech to shut down, it's so good. Aim shot at the immobile target. But so those are my 2 games. And definitely, I want to say I'm more interested in lower BV games because I know the trend is to kind of keep pushing bigger and bigger. But I'm like, what's a low BV game? Like, what's your lowest comfortable BV? And I'm of the 2000. Like, I won't go below 2000. What about you guys?
Oh, like when does it stop becoming BattleTech?
Yeah, when does it stop becoming BattleTech? Because I feel like below 2000, you're no longer really doing damage. You're just either trying to do PSRs and kicks or...
Right, I was going to say it goes down to melee real fast.
Yeah.
It's so much more damage than any of your weapons.
That is... I would want to playtest some of that. Yeah. Like, you could have a cinematic battle with like a Stinger and some light armor, like a Scorpion, and you could take it pretty low, but I'm kind of with you. 2000, any lower than that sounds, because then you're just throwing like 2 light mechs or a light mech and some small piece of armor on the table at 1500.
Yeah, I have a small scenario I had recently set up where it was just 2 squads of inner sphere hold on, sorry.
It's okay. It's Monday night. I don't know why I decided Monday night.
What the hell is an elemental? It's about battle armor.
Yeah.
2 squad.
You can just say elemental.
It was inner sphere. I recently set up a scenario where it was 2 squads of inner sphere battle armor against an urban mech on a city map with an objective. Like, they're all slow. It's about the same BV. Slow. Yeah. But like in my head, cinematically, it was really awesome with the mech. If it runs, it's faster than what the battle armor could jump. So in my head, it was super awesome. But that's a really low BV game, and
was it fun?
On the table? It's not quite as cinematic as in my head, but I wanted it to be.
What's that? He kills 1 battle armor trooper if he hits, maybe. A turn.
Yeah.
If he moves, it's +1, and if they jump, it's +3.
And if he jumps, it's +5.
Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my concern is if you go low BV, you need to be able. You can do damage, and like we were taking like 1-shot mechs and stuff. Like, okay, you either hit or you don't. Like, it's fast like that, and if you hit, you're doing hard damage. So
Hollander.
Yeah. No. But that's exactly it. Stuff like a Hollander, Hunchback, those are low BV primo mechs.
Yep.
Bang for your buck. Or as I like to call it, Bachalin broke.
Just a bunch of glass cannons. That's what you need.
Keep it quick. What's the word? It's a Salhama game. That's what it is.
There you go.
But yeah, so that's pretty much it for the hobby progress, hobby news, fan mail, and games played. After that, let's tune in, see what's coming on the store HPGs. Okay, so we've got a new product from Fortress Miniatures and Games. Death Ray Designs has some new decals for their Steel Rift line, and we've got the classic nose art for a shark's mouth, the hazard stripes, 6mm numbering, and spray-on graffiti decals for your terrain or custom mechs. These transfer sheets are some of the most jam-packed I've seen, and I want everyone here to know that nose art is just begging to be put onto a Timberwolf. And Ares Games and Miniatures has a bunch of restocks from Kados, including the long-awaited Initiative deck, Battlefield Support decks, both the Comstar miniature packs, and another Camo Specs online auction for Melissa No. This time for a Wolf's Dragoons Wolverine, and I'm going to say it looks awesome.
Hi, it's Vince with VibroChop. You're going to be in a great mood all day chopping your problems away with the VibroChop. Now look, your home planet gets invaded, my home planet gets invaded. It's a real problem. A big clan and elemental enters your house, what are you going to do? Stab it with a knife? Get real. Shoot it with a bullet? That bounces right off. Worthless. Now look, with the VibroChop, one chop goes right through that armor. 2 chops, that limb comes off. 5 seconds, it looks like coleslaw. It's so easy, I could do this all day. Your grandma could do it. Kids could do it. The reason you're going to chop away all day is it's so easy to clean. 1, 2, and the blade pops right out to clean. Now these other ones you've seen in the stores, hard gel, gets in the handle. All the stores have this. You can't clean it. You can't open this up. It's worthless. Forget about it. The VibroChop sells for $299.85, but if you call now for the next 20 minutes, because you know we can't do this all day, you get another one absolutely free. That's 2 for $299.95. Order today.
All right, and we are back. And guess what? We're talking about BSPs, the ABCs of BSPs. Insert copyright-free music here. But yeah, so BSPs, aka Battlefield Support.
Points?
BS. So, okay, you know what? While we're here, how do we refer to them? Because it's just Battlefield Support, but that doesn't sound right.
Why are they BSPs? Did we make that up and we've been wrong this whole time? Is it just BS? Battlefield Support?
Yeah.
Well, it is the Battlefield Support deck.
BSDs and BSPs, but the unit they use...
BSP. It's in the book right here. BSP cost.
Yeah. Yeah,
right,
so no, it's an actual thing.
Point. Yeah, the BSP is a thing.
So it's Battlefield Support point. Because
yes.
the point, Battlefield Support point, parentheses, BSP cost. It's official.
Correct. You purchase your Battlefield Support with the Battlefield Support points.
We'll get there. I know. Talking Dustin.
You keep inviting him onto this podcast, so I have to keep explaining myself.
You find someone better that wears a shot collar as well as he does.
That is the rub there.
All right, so BSPs, aka Battlefield Support points, part of the Battlefield Support deck and in the Battle Mech Manual, Battlefield Support section. There we go. That's the whole thing. But yes, so now that the Battlefield Support deck is back in stock, we wanted to talk about what's in it, what you get out of it, and how to squeeze every last long Tom shell for what it's worth.
And man, is it worth it.
Quick note, if you may remember, the Atlantic City Open used Battlefield Support deck. So
they're official.
They are official, and they are, I don't want to say pushed, but encouraged for use as an official game product, not just an add-on for flavor.
Yeah, as someone who has used them, I totally agree. This is something that should be a part of way more battles than it is right now. It is a fantastic idea.
Are these stratagems for our 40K players?
Shh. No, yes.
We'll discuss later. But yeah, so what are the Battlefield Support options? So we've got minefields, we've got airstrikes, strafing, and air bombing. We've got defensive air cover. We have artillery. I can't think of anything else that I would throw into a, quote, Battlefield Support than that, which is really just the things you're not taking with you for the battle itself.
Yeah, this is kind of all the stuff that you can technically officially do. The easiest of which I would argue is, the minefields and the artillery, but then like aerospace strafing.
You have not played this. You actually listed the 2 most intensive ones, and the strafing and bombing runs are by far the easier options to use.
Yes.
By far.
No. I mean, if you're playing classic if you're playing out of the Total Warfare book.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah. Yes. So, yes. That's what I was kind of saying. Like, nobody wants to learn how to use the aerospace assets. I'm sorry. That's just like a lot of rules.
I just bought that book again.
Again, he says.
Where do you find the guru? Like, who is the pedagogue for teaching aerospace? I don't know one. So Yeah, it's there, but do you know anybody that's used it? So yeah, I think this looks super cool. Full disclosure, I didn't get to use them yet, but yeah, the strafing and the bombing looks dope. Yeah, this is all the stuff that you would normally have to learn a lot of extra rules for and pay the battle value for, but you can just take your BSPs instead.
How are they balanced? Well, it's part of the name. It's Battlefield Support Points, or BSPs. So there are 4 point levels encouraged in the Battle Mech Manual, and then you can either get 5 points, 12 points, 20, or 35 points to spend throughout a game. And the 4 options are not tied to any BV levels, unfortunately. They are just 4 flavorful cost levels that you and your opponent can agree on. So if you want a full-on like war level with both military bases behind you, giving you constant 24/7 support, go with the 35. If you're just wanting a light raid and you might get 1 aerospace run, you go with 5 instead. So,
right, how cinematic do you want your battle to be?
Yeah. What do you guys think about that? Giving just 4 levels of cost without suggested BV levels.
Well, it should be mentioned that these are only suggestions. You can do whatever numbers you want, and I do. I have gone from very, very few. I've gone as low as 6. I've never gone down to 5. I've gone as low as 6, and I think I've gone up to 45 or 50. And it does change the feel of the game. It makes it feel a lot more like your favorite mech battles in any of the novels that have been out, because all of those, not all of them, all the big ones tend to also have combined arms and airstrikes and artillery coming in from off the map. And it makes it feel a lot more like that. So I encourage people to use them, and I encourage people to use a lot of them.
Now, did you find that there was like a comfortable correlation between the BV and the BSP points, or was there like a sweet spot for kind of any BV?
All right.
Since you've got the most experience.
Let's break out the math.
How I've been doing them is clan versus inner sphere is very difficult to balance when you want to have few enough units on the board to get a game done in just a few hours instead of all day.
Want, the inner sphere brick company versus the star.
So to keep it from like a full star of clan mechs versus 18 or 20 inner sphere mechs, I try and get a lot fewer inner sphere mechs, but really pad them out with BSPs, and that way it gives them the home field advantage. So they have the artillery, they have the battlefield seeded with minefields, and they have their aerospace assets coming in from the local airport or dropship that they're being launched from, and that gives them quite a bit of an edge, without having to flood the field with a bunch of mechs that are going to take forever to move. So that's how I tend to do most of my games. I've only had like 1 or 2 games where both sides had BSPs.
How many BSP are you doing in the game you just talked about? Like
that one was like 35 minimum. Okay. One of them is one we went up to way more, like 45 or 50. I was trying to figure out like what the correlation between battle value and BSPs were. There is no official stance on that yet.
Give me the Denham official.
Yeah, the Denham official is still it's somewhere between 100 and 250 battle value per BSP.
Okay.
Yeah, depending on like what you use, because some things seem a lot more powerful than others, but also it's just how lucky did you get that game. So right. I don't know yet a really good one, but I feel it's somewhere in the 100 battle value range.
Cool. Not that you need to balance.
You don't, but it's still. I mean, like both sides need to have a chance to win.
Yeah. I can see some fun, flavorful games where like one side is defending a base and has more BSPs to make up for less BV or something like that. But
right, it's really great that way. The people who were playing, even the clan players, saw very quickly. Oh yeah, the inner sphere needs a little bit of help. So Everyone had a great time, and they agreed it was very cinematic. And everybody who I played with them is very happy, and they want to do it more. Which is why I'm super happy they came out with a battlefield support deck, which we'll talk about at some point.
Yeah, I'll be picking one up whenever I get a chance to.
By the time listeners have listened to this, I'll have one with heavy airstrike included.
Fantastic.
Nice. But yeah, so like I said, so those are what they are and how they're balanced, but how do we actually use them? So let's start with just minefields, because they're, I want to say, the weirdest.
They are. They do not take effect as the rest of them do. Yeah. All the rest of them are single-use items only. Like once they are used, they either do damage or they don't. But either way, you have spent them; they are gone. You know, before we talk about minefields, let's talk about how you choose what you're going to get, because that kind of does matter.
Okay.
At the beginning of the game, you decide how many total BSPs you're going to get to spend on battlefield support. You allocate each one of those points to something. Any extra points that you don't use are just lost. Like you don't get to bring in extra stuff later. So at the beginning, before you even put mechs on the board, you decide, okay, I want this many minefields. I want this many artillery strikes. I want this much and this type of aerospace support. That way you've got... That's why the deck was so good, is because it gives you cards that you can hold on to do it. Otherwise, you just have to write it down.
The deck is, so I was reading the rules. I don't have the deck, but like, you write it down in secret. You have to allocate it ahead of time. No takey backsies or switching them up. But the deck is super cool in that way. Yeah, you just pull the cards out that you want to use, huh?
Yeah, it's all pre-game bought before.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly. With like your the things from Warhammer. Stratagems, like your stratagems.
That's the last. Any third reference to Warhammer, and I get a lawyer on my door. So that's it. Sorry.
Most of them, you use them once, they're gone. Minefields are a little bit different in that you decide how many points of minefields you want. You've got light, medium, and heavy. And before the game starts, you write down in secret what hex numbers they're in and how many you put in each hex. You can have up to 6 groupings of damage in each hex per side. So you could put like one heavy, you could put a medium and a light in one hex to make it a total of 6. And those would be rolled independently.
Yeah.
So those are all in secret. Nobody knows where they are.
Except you.
In the move. What?
Except you. You know where they are.
Oh, yeah. The person who's putting them down knows. Yes. Yes. But that's important. And teamwork, like if you're playing with a team, it's important to use communication because mines don't have a Santa Claus. They don't care if you're naughty or nice. They will blow up whether you're a friendly mech or an enemy mech.
They don't discriminate.
They do not. So anytime a mech enters that hex, you roll on the 2-hit number. If you roll the 2-hit number or above, the mines go off and they hit the legs. Otherwise, they don't go off at all. And they just sit there and they're still primed and ready for someone else.
I love it.
Whenever one gets set off, so that medium one has 4 damage groups. And all of the battlefield support, their damage is in groups. So if it says 4, it means they do 4 groups of 5 points of damage, each rolled individually. So medium landmines do 20 points of damage to the legs of a mech that enters that hex.
Those poor locusts.
Yep. If you set off a minefield and it successfully goes off, its damage value is reduced by 1. So a medium goes from 4 down to a 3, then a 3 to a 2, 2 to a 1, and then once it goes to 0, it's no longer a viable landmine field.
Those are pretty deadly.
They can be. They can be, but the 2-hit numbers are like 8.
Oh, okay.
On the light ones. No, it's a 9 to hit with the light, 8 on the medium, and 7 on the heavy. So even a heavy one only goes off barely 50% of the time. So it's scary. And when they do go off, it is devastating.
Yeah.
But also, sometimes they just don't go off, and then it's there. So unless somebody pushes you back into it, or you decide to try something risky, then then so it can certainly do its job, but they're scarier than they are effective in my experience.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I almost feel like you want the opponent to know that you've deployed a minefield and then have the they're more psychological than they are useful.
I tend to, I've noticed when people are setting up minefields, so they like to put them in choke points, areas between terrain, which if you think about a game, that's not where enemy mechs go, or at least end up. I try and find like the heavy woods behind a level 1, anything that gives the opponent a lot of benefit, and that's where I put them. So you want to put the only restriction to landmines are that you cannot put them in water. You can put them in any other full hex on the map board.
You can put them in buildings?
You can.
Nice. That makes sense.
Yep. They're pretty good. Let's see. The light ones have a damage grouping of 2, medium 4, heavy 6. So that's 10, 20, and 30 points of damage. But light density are very cheap. They each only cost half of a battlefield support point.
I think it's hilarious that we could have had discrete units of battlefield support points, like 1, 2, 3, and they're like, this one cost a half. And I'm
right.
Like, my gosh. Like, nothing else cost a half. So if you buy one light minefield, you might as well just buy a second one. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to, really. Like, it's basically they come in pairs because there's nothing else that costs a half. So so what else are you going to do?
Well,
and you could put both of those in the same hex. So it's the same amount of damage as a medium one, but you get to roll twice or have to roll twice. So even though it's a 9 or higher to hit, you at least get 2 chances to do at least some damage. So it is.
Now, just for my smooth brain and just clarifications, because I feel like this is probably the most rules intensive for both players. So let's say I put 2 minefields, let's just do light minefields in one hex, and then the hex right in front of it. So there's a line. The opponent is walking. It's in their movement phase, and they move. They hit the first one. Do I tell them once they hit the first one, or do I tell them once they've completed their movement that they walked over 2 mines?
According to the rules, you tell them when they hit the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Because then they have to think, do I want to keep walking or do I want to change my mind?
Well, first we have to see if anything happens to their legs, if they could fall, slide.
Them.
Yeah, you go.
Yep,
you go.
Stop them as soon as they enter the hex and you say, let me roll to see if the landmines explode. And so you roll. If they don't explode, everybody still knows that there's mines there. And you can either mark them or you can leave them unmarked, to simulate battlefield fog of war, because someone might forget and then walk back over them again. Anyway, there are optional rules that have said that the person who controls the landmines can roll in secret, but it's really tough to roll in secret. We talked about doing that and started to try that, but it was so bad that we're like, no, let's just, your mech can detect that there are landmines close to you, even if you don't set them off.
Proximity sensors, people.
Yes. So it was way more hassle, and the game just went a little bit faster when, as soon as someone enters a hex with landmines, you go ahead and roll. Whether or not it explodes, they know that landmines are there. So yeah, that's what we did.
Nice.
There are ways of detecting and clearing landmines. Clearing landmines is pretty easy. It's basically you shoot at them with anything super large, like an LRM-20, a rocket launcher 20, MRM-20, 30, or 40, or an ATM-12. I think an ATM-9 also works.
Yes, but only the high explosive.
Right. So you shoot the hex, which is already a -4, and you roll 2d6, and on a 5 or higher, it reduces all landmines in that hex to 0.
Oh,
so
clear.
They are considered dead.
There are also special ammunitions that are purpose built for landmines, but
correct. And if you really want to slow down the game,
use them.
Yeah. If you really want to slow down a game, though, take a mech with an active probe, because a mech with an active probe can reveal landmines. At any point during a mech's movement, if it mounts an active probe and the effective radius of the probe covers any hex containing an enemy minefield, the controlling player of that minefield must make a roll. On a result of 10 or higher, any enemy minefields in that hex are revealed. The problem with that is that if suddenly you start rolling, they know that there is a minefield within X number of hexes from them, like 4 hexes for most probes. So what you have to do is every time they move, roll 2 dice for every single hex that is that is covered by their probe, without telling them which hex that you're rolling for or like what the result is. And it just takes forever. It takes so long.
I mean, some mechs have, magnetometers, so they're pinging like higher density levels and and they just can't figure out where. But yes, I completely understand. I would rather it just be on a 9-up after moving, and if they finish their movement within, B galactic probe range. But I understand why it's there, and I understand that it kind of gives active probes a better usage in classic play without breaking down optional rules.
Yeah. But the more you play, the faster you get, and the faster you get with the basics, then, somebody might want to take an active probe for those special missions. So just keep playing. You'll get faster.
Now, I will say, isn't there a limit to how many mines you can put in a map sheet, like a hard limit, so you can't just... No?
There is not, except for how much you want to stay friends with the people that you're playing against. Yeah, so if somebody took 35 BSPs, that's a potential 70 light minefields that they can saturate the map with, and the only thing stopping that is the gentle person's agreement. Yeah, saying let's not be dicks.
Yeah, the rule book literally says that, like, part of we're using battlefield support points. It's like you're not going to use 70 light minefields, right? Okay, good.
I'll use 68.
I mean, at that point, hopefully your opponent knows when you have, 80 semi-light mine tokens to just put around. You're like, hey, what's that bag? Nothing at all. You're like, I'm taking only jumping mechs with B galactic probes. No reason.
And I'm firing LRM-20s into every hex before I go there.
Yeah, I feel like there should be chain reaction rules just because of that.
There should be, but 30 meters per hex is a lot.
I know.
All right, so that is minefields in a nutshell.
That is the most complicated of all of these. Out of the way.
So are there any questions you guys have that I may have missed since I've actually used these more than once?
Nope.
No. I mean, the only thing is, if you put 6 groupings worth of mines in one hex and your opponent puts 6 groupings worth of mines in one hex, does that make it 12 and both you need to roll?
Does make it 12, and you roll for yours because it does affect friendly mechs, and then they roll for theirs. So you could take 60 points of damage to your legs.
I just see the mech crawling on 2 stumps.
Yep. Like, what was that? What I want to do in my head is just think about the poor infantry who are laying landmines in a minefield.
Across the street from
without noticing.
Whoa! It's long range FASCOM, people. We've got the purpose built missiles for doing.
That's true. We do. Yeah, that makes way more sense.
But that's for laying mines during the game, not pre-game.
And minefields are also unique in that they are done in the beginning of the game, and they're not done during like the shooting phase.
Right, and also they can keep attacking over multiple rounds, which none of the others can do.
Pretty unique.
Yeah, so minefields are complicated to begin with, but once you use them, it's not that bad. It's the hardest part is remembering to pay attention where an enemy goes, so you can say, "Oh, you blew up."
Yeah. So the one bad part about battlefield support is you kind of do need a whole nother sheet just to keep track of it. Like,
if what is it? The battle mech manual has a sheet in the back, like one of the photocopy things, and you can get this off of, I think, their site as a PDF. Yeah. But it has a whole thing about battlefield support points. These mechs are hidden in these hexes. Landmines are hidden in these hexes. You have X number of artillery supports and X number of things that you can just check off boxes on.
Nice.
I have a couple of those laminated that I keep in my sheet. But look in the battlefield manual, battle mech manual, and there's a really handy sheet for keeping track of that.
So an overall rating on mines, 1 to 5.
2.5.
I was going to say 3 or 4 just because of the psychological value. Like if they know that there's mines out there, the enemy is going to be it does slow down the game. That's why it's not a 5.
Okay.
Because they start to think, oh, where could a mine be? And then they really second and triple guess their movements before they take them.
Right.
By 2 lights, because they're half. So if you're getting 1, you're going to get 2. It's buy 1, get 1. Put them in the 2 most likely hexes they're going to want to sit in, just so you can psychologically say, how many mines did I buy? I bought 2. I could have bought 20. Nobody knows anymore.
Nobody knows. You just know that there are, in fact, mines, and that will terrify them.
Then they're like, trust no forest, trust no hill.
All right, that was the most complicated. Should we go on to something a little bit easier now? The rest of them, aside from minefields, the rest of them, you wait until the weapon attack phase of any turn of the game, and you can declare some, none, or all of your remaining battlefield support items, which you've already paid for, so you know what they are. So in the case of these offensive aerospace support strikes, at the weapon attack phase, you can say, okay, well, I'm going to bring in 2 light strikes and a heavy strike, and I'm targeting these mechs. They can all target the same mech. They can all target different mechs.
Doesn't even have to be a mech.
Units. Yeah, it does not have to be a mech. It can be any unit. So for light strike, the target number is 5. Heavy strike, target number is 6. All the target numbers we say, none of them care about the enemy TMM. None of them care about terrain. None of them care about movement. It's just a straight up 5 for a light strike, a straight up 6 for the heavy strike.
So that's great.
Light strike hits, it's 2 groups of damage. So that's 2 groups of 5 rolled. And a heavy strike is 4 groups of 5 rolled.
And the light is 2 battlefield support points and the heavy's 3. So you get,
right.
I'd say at that point, the heavy's a bargain.
It is.
For,
it is.
Only 1.5 times.
The important part about the damage for most of these battlefield supports, so light strikes, heavy strikes, strafing, bombing or artillery on the detonation hex, all of those, when you do hit, you then roll a d6, and on a 1 through 4, it attacks the front of the target. On a 5 or a 6, it attacks the rear of the target. It doesn't matter with the strafing, like where the line is. Every single mech you hit, you have to roll that d6 to see if it's on the front or the rear. And we'll get into it, but the only time that's different is if you're doing area of effect damage or scattering, and that comes in from the direction that it scatters or spreads from the point of impact.
Right. To my eye, the light and heavy airstrikes seem like they could really punish like a fast, light, or medium mech.
Yeah.
They will punish anything.
But
now the sad part is that if you had already picked up a battlefield support deck, it is missing the heavy strike cards.
It's missing the best one.
The best one. It is missing it, and that's very sad.
But yeah, if you land a light strike 5 up on a locust with like a 4 TMM and it hits the rear, like you're getting crit chances. That's nice.
My only problem is when I want to hit the front of the mech, I hit the rear. When I want to hit the rear, I hit the front. And I'm like, why is it a 5 up? Like, I want to say before. My only problem with this is I can't just designate before the game, like randomly or for that turn where the fighters are in the rotation. Like, I would rather it be that rather than a random roll.
I understand the random roll because if aerospace is coming in cinematically, once again in my head, even though the mech's facing is that direction, like he's moving his torso around trying to find that and not sure where it's coming in from, and the aerospace is doing its maneuvering, and it might hit the rear instead. So I get it, and I like it that way. When we've played it, it has worked out well.
Yeah, I mean, on average, you're hitting the front.
Yeah,
and it's groups of 5 damage, so it's not just a solid,
it's not a big chunk.
15
Correct.
damage hit. So it's gonna go wherever it wants to go.
1 out of 5 stars on airstrikes.
5 stars. Yeah,
chef's kiss.
I love them.
I want to say this. I mean, it's just the most bang for your buck offensively with the most guarantee.
Right.
Like if I wound something and it's running away, or it's like got an objective and it's just like, I need an ace in the hole. Like, just do I have an 80% chance of of hitting it just for like 1 damage. That's all I need.
I'm actually going to say that it's 4.5 stars because there is something in here I like better.
Okay.
Gotta leave room for the ceiling here.
Right.
All right, moving on.
But so those are your aero fighters, doing a little gun run. But what's about the actual strafing gun run? This is the A10s coming in, just going burnt for like 10 seconds, using all their ammo up. We're talking about strafing.
I love a good strafe. And yeah, it's every time it happens, it's the A10 that I hear in the background in my head. So it's a little bit higher for the target number. It's a 7 to hit instead of a 5.
A 7's better than an 8. I'll say that.
It is. It's 50%, but
7 happens, 8 doesn't.
But you designate a 5 hex row and you attack every unit in that row. If there are multiple things in a hex, it attacks each one of those. So it can hit a fair amount if they're all clustered up. And it does 3 damage groupings. So that's 15 points of damage
per hex.
Per unit that it hits. So if it hits 5 units, it does 15 points of damage to each unit. It's a little bit high. It's 5. It costs 5 BSP to do it. And if you miss a unit, you still go on to the next one. Like you roll to hit for each individual unit in the strafing run. You don't just roll once. You roll for every single unit in there.
So each unit in that line of 5 hexes generates a roll.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And for each one, individually, you roll on the front or rear, like that 1d6. Okay. So it could hit some of them on the front, some of them on the rear. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun.
Now, it specifically says, remember to first roll 1d6 to determine whether each attack strikes the front or the rear of the mech. Now, the only question is that do I roll for the first one, and that's like the direction it's coming, or just per unit? So if there were
per
5
unit.
Yeah, okay. So it's multiple gun runs sometimes, and it's one continuous gun run the next. It's a little abstract, but it's also for fairness.
It's the BCU.
Correct.
It's the Battletech Cinematic Universe.
Right. Because otherwise, like if you're doing a strafing run, you would find a line of mechs and you would just shoot all of them in the back if you could.
Yeah.
As fun as that would be, I think it would be way too powerful.
Yeah.
In which case, strafing would be a 6 out of 5.
So how many
but
stars?
It's not. It's a 4. It's super useful in certain situations, but if mechs are spread out, if units are spread out, it's just not it's not worth 5 points.
But if you can dictate the engagement and kind of force them into like 1 or 2 hexes, and the problem is you have to get them in a direct line. It's not like, oh, this one and then angle and then like make a weird Z shape. No, it's a line. My thoughts on strafing is, when is this going to be used best? Is it going to be used best early game, mid game, or like late game?
Early game, I find a lot more units spread out as the game goes on and gets onto the other side of the board when they're trying to flank or get those coveted rear shots. So at the beginning of the game, when they're all marching across from their point of entry, strafing tends to work the best. Especially, and I guess any of these aerospace support work the best if they're in level 1 water. If you can catch a line of opposing forces in the water and hit them with any of these, you roll on the punch table for all the damage. So even if you're hitting on the front, it's still a headshot 1 in 6 times.
That's pretty spicy.
It's no partial cover. It's
right. You roll. It's the same. The target number is the target number. So if you're hitting them with a heavy strike, you roll a 6. If they're in level 1 water, you take all 4 of those 5-point groups and roll them on the punch table.
Spicy.
It is. You catch somebody in level 1 water, it is devastating. Yeah. Strafing run in that situation is you get the most bang for your buck, and it is worth way more than 5 at that point if you can get
if they're in water.
Correct.
So you think maybe mandatory take 1 strafing just in case?
I like options. So that's my problem, is that I don't tend to
But you have to pre-buy them. You have to pre-buy them before the game.
Exactly. You have to pre-buy them. And I like to have options. Therefore, I tend to buy a little bit of everything. So when I find something that's working really well against my opponent, I don't have a lot of those in my toolbox because I had a little bit of everything. But the more you play a person, and you might get their tactics, and then you can start tailoring your toolbox to the metagame of how they play.
You know where I see this coming to a real effect? 30-25 conga lines.
Yes.
You have one sacrificial mech that's just like, I'm going to lead the conga line.
Because strafing also targets friendlies, as do any of these. Yes.
So this is how you defeat conga lines, people. You set it up and you hit your own guy.
And you could do all of your strafings in the same turn. If you have 5 of them, you could do all 5 of them in one turn.
Strafing strong. Not overpowered. I don't want to think it's that. It is 5 BSP, which is very expensive.
It is expensive, and your opponent does not always do what you want them to do.
So besides, the little airstrikes and the strafing gun runs, we also have the rest of the aerospace fighter, which is the bomb base. And what are they filled with? Light and heavy bombing runs.
Oh, yeah. Now, these are special and different from the strikes in that they can scatter. So if you miss with a bomb, you roll on the scatter table. Well, you roll to see which direction it goes in, and your margin of failure is how many hexes it goes. So if you miss really bad, it can go really far. But if you only miss by a little bit and the enemies are still clumped up, there's a good chance you're going to hit one of their other units anyway. All right, Dustin. The most powerful tool in this whole toolbox, in my opinion, is the light bombing if the enemy has infantry of any sort. And the reason is because the light and heavy bombs do area of effect.
Which hits every trooper.
So if you drop this on a point of elementals, so there's 5 elementals and they all have 11 hit points. And it does 3 groups of 5 damage, which is 15 points of damage.
I don't have that many fingers, but I think it's more than 10.
It is more than 11, and it is applied to every single infantry unit, not the star itself,
Right.
or not the point of elementals, but every individual elemental takes 15 points of damage.
Yeah.
And if you hit a hex that has an elemental squad in it, it just disappears.
I had to have to me. It was very painful. I just deployed my troopers. I was so ready for them to, because they were in woods, they were ready, they were hidden. He was like, bombing run. And I was like, no.
Oh.
Yep. Now, if you had not deployed your troops and they were still on the mech or whatever it is they carried into, then the standard rules apply where they only take damage if the battle damage grouping that you roll happens to hit like a torso that it's on there, and then it has a chance of damaging the elemental.
Yeah.
So that's totally different. But if they are deployed, then they all take it and they're all eliminated. So for 3 BSP, you can have infantry erasing buttons.
That's nice, because you said 1 BSP is roughly 100 BV. That's a good trade because there's lots of battle armor that's worth more than 300 battle value.
Yes.
Not that normally it's that way, but
and even if they don't have elementals, that's 15 points of damage that you can do. And if you find a group of mechs, even if you miss, you're probably going to hit someone else.
on a 5-up, that's.
And the best part is, if you wait for them to deploy, you're going to be getting the mech that they dropped off too.
Yes, because it's going to be nearby.
Yeah, it's area of effect, so it's everything in the hex.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you hit both the mech and the infantry. Yep, that is true. Bonus.
You're right, Josh.
You are right, Josh. Good thinking.
I did my homework. I also got it used against me.
So light bombing, I give a 5 to, because I love that one. Heavy bombing is like 4 because it's a little bit more expensive and a bit harder to hit.
I mean, do you really need 30 damage versus 15 damage?
If you're playing against clan mechs and you want to drop that bomb on that Timberwolf that's walking in water, and you want to do 30 points of damage to the punch table, yeah.
The cockpit's just hanging out there.
Yeah, it's just out there.
Just out there waiting for a bomb.
You want to roll 6 individual. You've got 6 individual rolls on a 1 in 6 chance of hitting the head. Odds are you're gonna get 1.
Yeah. So we didn't touch really on margin of failure and how that really works out. So for something like light bombing, which needs a 5-up, if I roll a 5-up, I've I've made it, so I don't
Right,
scatter at all. If I roll a 4 up, the difference between what the target roll is and what my actual roll is 1. So then I scatter 1 hex in one random direction.
Right. You just roll a d6 and you've got it's basically the same as the fall diagram for a mech. So you just follow that and go 1 hex. And so if you roll a 3, that's a margin of failure of 2. So you go that random direction 2 hexes.
Yeah. Now, my thought is on that is the light bombing is very easy to get in the hex you need. Heavy bombing is a little harder with the 7-up, but because it has the ability to scatter, does that make it more valuable? Unfortunately, it's not multiple hex, so it's only the hex that it's in that it can hit.
Right. And it depends on how much your enemy is clumping up. If they're clumping up a lot, heavy bombs are like, that's the way to go.
So if I'm playing someone that's I know is using a lot of weaker units and is running big stacks, I will probably just try to go for 1 good heavy bombing because it's only 1 more battlefield support point. So I pay 25% more, I get twice as much damage out of it. And the scattering doesn't matter as much.
Yeah, if the odds are you're going to hit something, because if it misses, it's not wasted. It's not 100% wasted.
Yeah.
There is a chance it might hit something else.
Light bombing for taking out that 1 squad of battle armor. Heavy bombing for taking out, vehicles and infantry and everything that's going to be in a hex.
It's so important. So important that light bomb. Especially if you're playing against clan with elemental support. It's just so important.
What about you, Dustin? What would you think about taking out of all the air things if you could only take 1?
Oh, if I could only take 1? Jeez. I think the light bomb, I want to be able to put my munitions where I want them to land on target. Especially if I'm going to just like delete some elementals. That's just too handy on a 5-up.
Yeah, I almost feel like 15 damage is too strong just because of that, but
yeah, like a 2 would have been better because then at least your elementals have a point left. They're not just gone. And you'd have to spend 2 bombs on them to get rid of them completely. I agree. I think 3 might be too much, but that's what's in the rules, so that's why they're a 5 for me.
I'm not here to wish list. I'm just here to call it how it is and say that I've lost entire battle armor squads to 15 damage.
Me too.
Because I think the only battle armor that could survive is maybe a reactive, and there's not a whole lot of reactive armor battle armor.
And buildings don't help. Buildings, if a unit is in a building hex, then the building and the unit take the full amount of damage. So you don't get the CV divisor thing. Like battle like armor from a building that you normally do from area effect weapons. It does full damage to buildings and the unit in them.
Yeah, they were keeping it simple. So 1 out of 5 stars on the bombings.
5 out of 5 for the light bombing. 4.5 for the heavy bombing.
Now, is that just because it's so easy and it does exactly what it needs to do?
Yeah, that's why. Is that light bombing it's just an elemental infantry killer. It's essential to have 1 or 2 of those.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 4 just because the margin of failure, scatter, but hopefully I'm not, danger close, broken arrow, dropping bombs 2 to 3 hexes close to my guys because I know it's going to happen. Yeah. But like you said, the chance to take out an entire battle armor squad as soon as they deploy is just too strong. The only problem is our next things.
That's right.
Yep. This is important as well.
So we've talked all about the offensive aerospace fighters, but what are your aerospace fighters doing? Just letting all of the opponent's aerospace fighters into play? No, they're doing defensive air cover.
With the defensive aerospace support, when you are purchasing your units with your BSPs, you can also purchase squads of aerospace to defend against strikes and bombings and strafing. So, in that case, when somebody has declared, because during the fire phase, the items that are going to be used are declared all at the same time. So they will say, okay, I'm going to use a light bombing on your elementals. I'm going to do a strafe on this group over here, and I'm going to do a heavy strike on that demolisher tank in the corner. So you can look at the items that you have purchased, and if you purchased light or heavy air cover, you can then assign it to one or all of those attacking forces. So you can say, okay, well, I have 2 heavy air cover and 1 light air cover, so I'm going to take the light air cover and assign it to the light bombing on my elementals because I would really like them to stay alive.
Yeah.
And because I really want them to, I'm going to go ahead and assign one of my heavy strikes, my heavy air covers on that as well. And then I will use my last heavy air cover on to defend my demolisher. And then there's a target number, and you roll it. And if you make that target number, then they successfully intercept the aerospace attack. And if not, it gets through and does its normal attack.
But yeah, so I really like the light defensive air cover and the heavy defensive air cover. Like, I feel like these are almost mandatory takes, just because.
Right. And it's not a catch-all, so one doesn't do everything perfectly. So you have to. I feel you have to take at least one of each for that clutch moment where you have to defend, whatever key unit that you've got that is under attack.
I mean, after hearing about what happened to Josh's battle armor, I'm going to take maybe 2 of each.
Right. And they're not expensive.
They're easy
comparatively they're cheap. So a light air cover is 1 BSP and a heavy air cover is 2 BSP.
And light air cover versus a light strike, that's a 3-up. Like, that's free real estate.
Don't roll snake eyes. That's all.
That's right.
But a heavy air cover against that same light strike is a 9-up.
Because those heavy assets are slow.
Right. So you can use them both for either, but the heavy air cover is way better for the heavy strikes and the heavy strafings and bombings. And the light air cover is much better against the nimble strikes and light bombings. So
looking at these, is there an offensive one that's kind of has the best chance of surviving? Like, my heart says the heavy strike is probably the closest.
Heavy bombing is 6-up and 11-up.
The heavy bombing is, the 6 and 11. It's the highest numbers.
That's true. Okay. Yeah,
average.
Right.
Yeah. Which is interesting. And then heavy strike is, the heavies are, using light air defense against light strikes is like easy peasy. Light strike, 3-up. Light defensive air cover versus light bombing, 4-up. Like, piece of cake.
This almost says just commit to the heavier, harder rolls for the offensives because it's harder to get rid of them defensively.
Right. So there's your balance, Josh. Is that light bombs, though devastating, are also very easy to counter if your opponent is going defensively instead of offensively.
Yeah. So save some money for some air cover, but you're still going to get bombed somehow if they roll, above a 6 or 7.
The coolest part, in my opinion, about this whole strafing and then defense system is it introduces a little bit of game theory into the game, which is awesome. What is my opponent going to do? What should I counter that with? Are they thinking that I'm going to counter that? Are they going to is my opponent going to take 10 light strikes? Should I take 10 light defensive air covers? And then I love that. I love that.
Dustin,
kind of
gets worse.
It does.
It gets so much worse.
Oh, tell me.
Because, you don't have the battlefield support deck yet. So in the battlefield support deck, which we keep talking about, it's nice because it has the rules. So all this starts on like page 75 of the Battle Mech Manual. Right. But the deck that you can get comes with the rules for each thing in it as a card. So you don't have to have the BMM in front of you. But what it does have is an optional hidden aerospace rules. So it actually comes with a single card called a bluff. So instead of you declaring during the firing phase, my light bombing is going to attack your elementals, they just put down however many cards they want face down. And those are all aerospace fighters coming in. Ooh. And then you have your cover, your light or heavy, and you randomly assign them to whatever ones, and you don't know what they are. And one of them could even be a bluff where it's just nothing. And you've just wasted your heavy air cover. So that is an optional thing. Both people have to agree to it. I have not used that yet. For the like,
is this some other card game with trap cards and
You have to believe in the heart of the cards, Dustin. You have to.
I would actually feel like, We'll get to that. But me randomly draw like this turn, I get this.
Well, that's an interesting thing where you just have a bunch of cards and you just this is the battlefield support. I get this turn. Yeah. No, you still buy it. It's just you don't have to tell them what you're like. You don't have to say if it's a heavy strike or a strafe. You just say that you're attacking with aerospace and what do you want to defend with, and that's just a lot of luck, and it's almost too much luck for me, but. After I play around with it a bit more, I'll know how it feels, and then I'll decide if it's a good feeling or a bad feeling.
Are we ready for stars?
Yes.
Stars, do it. Light air defense cover, heavy air defensive cover. Are they the same?
I don't want to give them 5 out of 5 because then that kind of just says they invalidate something else that's good.
Right.
And I hate to say the offensive is good, so your defensive, that means you can't use your offensive, is even better. And I'm like,
it's a bad feeling.
Yeah.
So things that bring bad feelings can't get perfect 5s.
I would rather, instead of it just completely shoots down, I would rather it just make the target number higher.
Ooh, interesting.
Like, I feel like you still get a chance, you still get a roll. Like, they get to roll and see if it cancels out.
Plus
and then,
2 or something.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, you had a 5 up to hit me with your light strike. Now it's just 8 up. It's like, you can still do it, but I've interrupted you, and you can't guarantee it this turn.
So yeah, I mean 3.5 stars.
Right.
It's necessary, but it can introduce some bad feelings.
Unnecessary evil. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I would rather there be fun offensive, defensive play rather than I cancel out your offensive card, because that's just kind of lame.
Well, you still do have to roll the dice.
Yeah. Then I'm just rolling against his rolls, and that's not what I'm here for.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So for the battle mech manual stuff, we got one left, right?
Yeah, we got the artillery. So, all of the rest has been air assets. And there's only 3 technically for ground assets. I feel like there was some, treadhead anti-bias in this.
That's what the Tukiyed book is for, but we'll get there.
We've got artillery, so let's go with the first one, the Thumper artillery system.
Yeah, that's right, for all you bull shark pilots out there.
Yeah. So the Thumper needs an 8 up to hit. It is the first that has an area of effect that is multiple hexes. So the first hex it hits in is 3 groups of 5 damage, and the hexes all surrounding that first hex is 1 group of 5. So it's a splash damage. It's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And that costs 3 battlefield support points.
Now this one, the one that's the point of impact, so the 3 groups, that one you roll randomly for the front back damage. But all the surrounding hexes, you use the impact point as the point of origin, and that's the that's the table that you roll on for the unit damage from there. So if it hits like right behind another unit, then it's the rear table for that. Also, if it scatters, original target hex is the point of origin, so the scattering would cause it to hit on a different location instead of rolling randomly for front or rear.
Yep. So 1d6 for direction, and then margin of failure for how far. And with an 8 up, it's probably not hitting where you want it to hit.
But, Josh, there are ways to lower that number.
There are. So the first thing about artillery is you get 5 pre-designated fire plans, I guess is the best way to put it. And these are automatic hits. No roll necessary. Your guys on the ground have done the math, and they know exactly the wind conditions and the range because they've been firing dummy rounds at it all afternoon.
Yep. They have prepared for this.
Yeah. So in an average game, you get 5 of these hexes to write down and keep secret.
Right. There are little caveats, but that's all in the rules that you can look up.
Yeah.
Other ways to lower that is if you have a spotting unit. If that spotting unit spots for... artillery doesn't come the turn that you fire it. So on the first fire phase, you say artillery is coming in because it has been fired. On the following turn, that's when it lands. Mm-hmm. So if you have a unit acting as a spotter on both turns, then you get a -2 to your roll. so it's only a 6 up. If that unit that's spotting fires, then it's only a -1, so it's a 7 up. But with a area effect like multiple hex hits, those misses aren't so bad if you only miss by 1 or so.
Yeah, then it's palpable.
Yeah, and then you're still doing a little bit of damage.
Yeah.
Still taking out those elementals and infantry, though, in a big way.
Yeah, so I would say if you see a mech with, elementals or something that's moving towards that pre-designated hex, like, I would say designate hexes the same way that you would designate minefields.
100%. Find those places where you'd want to be and say, that heavy woods right there, surrounded by level 1 partial cover, I'm gonna zero that one in up there. That nice spot on a hill where your sniper mech can just sit back and fire its long range firepower without much risk because of all the terrain. Pre-designate those and just punish anyone who decides to use that. So the thumper you said was 3 in the detonation hex and then 1 group surrounding it.
Correct.
The sniper is a little bit more powerful, so it's 4 groups in the impact hex and 2 for everyone surrounding it.
That's 4 support points.
Yep. And then for 6 support points, you get the long tom, which is
beautiful.
5 groups of 5 in the primary hex. Then every hex touching that is 3 groups of 5. And then every hex touching that is another group of 5. You do a lot of damage with that.
That's a big radius.
But they're expensive. Artillery can also be used to clear minefields accidentally. But it's only the impact hex. It's not the splash damage surrounding hexes.
Good to know.
And then it's still a 10 up.
That's an expensive mine clearing round.
Yeah, you want that to just be an also effect, not an intended effect.
So based on that math, you can have 2 thumpers or 1 long tom.
You can have 2 long toms or 3 snipers or 4 thumpers for the same amount.
Yeah.
Yes.
They all work the same. That's the issue. The only thing you're paying more for is damage, and then the long tom, that 1 extra hex, which is 12 extra hexes.
Yeah, it's radius 2 versus 3 hexes is pretty huge difference. I've used Arrow 4 in classic Battletech, and you'd think 1 hex in the surrounding hexes is like a lot, but it's kind of not. I've always wanted the extra. I've always wanted the 3rd radius.
Well, if you go with 4 thumpers, you get 5 pre-designated hexes for each thumper.
Yep.
Now, a pre-designated hex is assigned to that artillery piece. So just because you have 1 thumper that has like that heavy woods dedicated, you have to dedicate it individually for each artillery piece if you want an auto hit on that hex.
Okay. See, I misread the rules. I thought you picked 5 hexes and then that was it. Whatever artillery you had was coming in on those 5 hexes.
You can pick the same hexes
if you want,
right,
for each one, but you can't just like, oh, I've picked 5 and all of those get to share those 5.
There are like other weird rules as well. You'll just have to read through that.
Okay.
But it's not super difficult. And once you play it a few times, you'll be like, oh yeah, it makes sense.
So out of those 3, do we have a favorite?
I like the big guns. I like the long tom. I just do. It makes the big bang.
Boom. Big boom.
Yep.
What about you?
Even if I don't fire many of them, just the fact that I've got some scares my opponents.
Yes. So I guess that kind of goes back to the original. Does your opponent know what you buy at the start of the game? No. They know when you use it.
Correct.
So they don't know that you have a long tom until the long tom is firing. Then the next turn, they know that it's hitting.
And they don't even know that it's long tom. You just announce that there's incoming artillery.
If a player wishes to use 1 or more support types, they must declare their use during the attack declaration portion of the weapon attack phase. So I think you do have to say, I fire a long tom.
Okay.
But you can't take it. There's no backsies, no take backsies.
Right.
Yeah, right.
They're like, all right, there's 13 hexes in a 3 hex radius that are
Right, and you have to have all this stuff written down so that somebody can say, "I call BS."
Yep.
Let me see that, and then you're like, "Yeah, it's right. It's written right here," and I've got these all checked off.
There's several megatons of payload heading your way, buddy.
Yeah.
Now, before we pick between the three, I think Dustin was leading into there are multiple weapon options for the Long Tom, multiple payloads, I should say.
True.
There's two that are less exciting, right?
Whoa, less exciting. Everyone loves illumination Long Tom rounds. You roll the exact same. You spot the exact same. It's just now you get...
Yeah, there's a couple different munition types. Illumination or smoke does exactly what it sounds like. It either lights up a series of hexes or it makes them into portable trees. The cost for each of those is the battlefield support point cost of the artillery support that you're using, divided in half, rounded down. So it's 1 for a thumper size, 2 for a sniper, and 3 for a long tom.
Nice.
So that's good for missions at night where you don't want to light yourself up with by using your spotlight. Mm-hmm. Or if you're playing Mega Mech and your spotlight gets blown up, because that happens a lot. And then smoke just makes groups of level 2 high cover.
Yeah, put trees in your pocket.
Sorry, concealment, not cover. Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
But the good thing about the smoke is it's heavy smoke, and it remains in play for the rest of the game. This is not one-turn smoke. This is, hey, that open field in front of the objective on their side, it's permanent heavy woods.
Wow.
And when you're doing a long tom of heavy smoke, like that's an instant heavy forest.
Yeah, the big giant group of permanent heavy cover in the middle of you could cover a run, especially for like a narrative or a, mission-based game. I actually have to take it all back now. Like the smoke is pretty exciting. I'm excited to try that out one day.
Illumination, I assume, can be handy, but I don't play enough night missions.
Yeah, that's purely for the night mission.
Yeah, it's for the... the smoke, you can smoke out a sniper in their nest. You just be like, you
can't do anything.
Punk.
You can pre-designate that level 4 hill, level 4 hill on the entire map sheet.
Everybody knows.
Pre-designate it. Firing plan already punched in. For 1 battlefield support point, you get a thumper with a smoke round, which is 1 hex and then all surrounding hexes, heavy smoke, rest of game.
And then you drop a bunch of bombs on them.
And then you can drop a bunch of bombs on them.
Get out. Get off my lawn.
That's insane.
It is.
That's awesome.
And then the other munition for all 3 of those supports is the Copperhead. Now, those are the same amount of points as the thing itself. They do less damage because they are guided munitions. So you would tag somebody, and then they're like homing munitions that they come in and hit the enemy for. I think it's like 1, 2, and 3 damage value groupings for thumper, sniper, and long tom.
Yeah, it just does one group too. It's like it's a hole puncher situation.
Yeah, it's like a homing arrow 4.
Yeah,
so it doesn't hit the hex, it hits the mech, but it's guided, so it's really easy to hit if you can tag somebody. Now, for artillery, there's not really any defensive way to prevent them like there is with the aerospace support. Yeah. There's no counter batteries. There's none of that.
Stars.
It's expensive.
I feel like you always need 1. You just need 1. I don't care which one, but you're always going to take 1 artillery.
Yeah, but it is expensive and inaccurate, and
8 up is rough. Never happens.
Yeah, it's still. I like all the battlefield support. So, obviously, I haven't given anything less than a 3.5, even the stuff I don't like.
But there's no bad one. There's no bad one.
Yeah.
All
so
of
a good solid 4 for all of them.
I do like that. Nothing on this list is like that's hot trash. I'm not taking it. It's all good.
Even the thumper, the lowly 8 up thumper, which only does 3 groups of 5. Is still an MVP when used correctly.
Yeah.
The fact that you can pre-designate hexes completely changes artillery. Like, yeah, that 8 up's hard, but they're really wanting to tell you, yeah, you can risk the dice to hit where you need, but really what it's meant to say is pick 5 hexes and next turn you can do 15, 20, or 25 damage into it.
Right, and that high target number, I think it's really there because of the scatter, so that you could accidentally hit your unit 6 hexes away,
if you really
and start doing some damage to friendly fire.
I used the sniper round, and there were 4 mechs, 2 of mine, 2 of his, and I was like, okay, half the ways of scatter, I hit something, and of course I rolled the other half, and I was like, I would have taken a sniper round to my face if I could hit both of their guys.
Nobody calls down artillery on their own units. Well, I guess somebody does.
But yeah, so that is all of the battlefield support options for the deck. Now, do we have any favorite combos? Because all these have points, and we have 4 recommended point levels, and I feel like most people are going to be taking like maybe 12.
Yeah, 12 is a good number.
So what are the mandatory takes? Because they're all good. There's no bads.
A light bomber, a light air cover, maybe one air cover of each. So the light bomber, one of each air cover, a thumper, and a couple minefields. I think medium are pretty nice, personally.
What about you, Dustin?
From the armchair, gosh, I love light strike. So nice. I love light bombing. So nice.
You'll never play another way again, and that's the sad part. Is once you try the full battlefield support experience, it's so good.
I'm paranoid, so I definitely take like some air cover, 2 lights, 1 heavy. Maybe not. Maybe I'm bluffing you guys out. You'll never know. And then I would take like a token long tom for fun for my first game. Maybe.
Kaboom!
It's so big. That's a lot of hexes.
Kaboom!
I mean,
yes, pocket, Rico. Kaboom!
Pocket smoke thumper for 1 point also seems handy. Yeah, those are the highlights for me so far. I want to try those out.
I feel like you just looked on my list because it's like Josh always takes smoke thumper. One support point. I could have 12 smoke thumpers. And it's everyone's playing in 3 hexes of woods.
Right. Come brawl with me.
Again, like way at the beginning, like 3rd paragraph, players may need to adjudicate some use of battlefield support points. If a cheesy player wants to fill the whole map with smoke, maybe don't play with them.
Anarchy! They didn't say I couldn't. They just said don't. Or they just said you shouldn't.
They just said talk it over with your opponent first.
Look, all I think about is I can make the entire map smoke, which means, hey, guess what? All your LRMs are worthless. We're only brawling now. It's like knife fighting. Like at that point, you're playing hidden units, and it's like Beagle Active Probe, Alien Movie, like Black Knight charges out of the smoke, hatchets, and he goes back into the mist. No one knows where he is. This is amazing.
Yeah, this means the mech is in your hex, and you look up and it's DFAing you. Yeah, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, no, then you're playing a completely different game, and that's even better. But no, I definitely think a smoke thumper for 1 BSP is like
that's
probably.
I didn't even think about that.
I want to say that's the most clear winner in my book, just because the only other thing that's 1 BSP is light defensive air cover, and that's just canceling something out. This is
mines.
So there's no reason for anyone to take a sniper smoke round or illumination round because it's twice as expensive for the exact same result.
Yep. Yeah, just take the thumper.
Take the thumper.
Yeah. Either take thumper or the long tom.
Which makes sense. I feel like the thumper's just, the more like close range support mortar for the comparison of these. So yeah, you're going to not have the big damage rounds in that. You're going to have the support rounds. So
I like it.
Like I said, take 1, maybe take 2. Don't get crazy. Don't be that guy. Be that
guy. And then post it on the Discord so we can hear all about it.
Yeah. I feel like I'm going to have to like mark up, 6 hexes of smoke now.
Yeah. Oh, I've got counters. I've got pre-done cardboard counters of minefields, smoke. Yeah, minefields and smoke all ready to go.
So yeah.
Lots of them.
You got your always takes, Josh?
Like I said, smoke thumper, at least 1 round. 2 light mines because they're half points, so you get those. So I've only spent 2 battlefield support points. If we're playing not the minimum 5, because those are the always takes.
Yeah.
At that point, I would do like a light defensive and then an offensive, like probably a light airstrike for 2, because that puts me at 5.
You just see those elementals dying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the light airstrike won't do it because that's only 2 groups of 5. I need a bombing for 3. So at that point, I would just go get rid of the light defensive and just go pure 1 bombing.
Oh, elementals, light strike is bad against elementals because it's 2 groups of 5 rolled against the point, like normal damage. Yeah. The bombing is the area of effect. That's the one that does damage to everything.
Yeah. So, like I said, if I only have 5 to work with, it's Smoke Thumper, 2 light mines, and a light bombing, just because that's an instant delete-us battle armor.
Yeah, that's why I have to have my 1 light air cover just to defend against that. If I have elementals.
But then what are you using for your offense? You don't have anything left.
I'm using elementals for my offense.
And that's probably the biggest takeaway from all this. It's like, you're not going to win the game just with the battlefield support deck. You're going to change the game. You're going to change the way your opponent plays. You're going to dictate the engagement, and you're definitely going to be playing some meta mind games with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you think people avoided water before, the first time you hit them with a strafing run in the water and they hit the whole line in the head, they're just be like, oh no, nope, stay away from that water forever.
I want to say that's pretty much it. Do we have any closing thoughts on the battlefield support deck?
Well, the deck, I love it. Like,
I should say on battlefield support and the battlefield support deck.
I think just like when they put the 2 elemental points into the box sets, I think coming out with a battlefield support deck is one of the best things they could have done, because each person is supposed to have their own deck. So it's not a deck that you bring and share with the other person. So each person should have their own deck to pick out of, and then they just use them, and they have the rules on there, and it's a great reminder, and it's just going to add so much spice to your game.
It's not even flavor; it's spice.
Yeah, it's like cumin.
What's the first one you're going to roll up when you get to the table, Dustin?
Light strike or light bomb.
Okay, you're just going to get it out of the way. Like,
just gonna do it.
Just do it. Drop the pants. Drop that load.
No, I might drop the smoke to try to shut something down.
Just confuse people. It's just going to confuse. Like what?
What's he going to do next? Nobody knows. Smoke rounds. No, I love it. And like I said, I can't wait for everyone to use their battlefield support. Tell me how you guys are using battlefield support.
I just want to touch on that some more books like the Tukiad, the Battle of Tukiad, also has extra battlefield support because they introduced the combined arms. So I know that a lot of people like to use vehicles, but it does slow down the game. In using that book as well as the Battle Mech Manual, you can add vehicles and jump infantry and mechanized infantry on a very abstract level. So you're not buying like a demolisher tank. You're just getting a combat vehicle assault tracked. And it does X amount of damage. It's very simplified, but it's more things to spend battlefield support points on. And it just adds, a little bit more spice to your game.
It looks like
if you like the Battle Mech Manual BSPs, you should definitely check that out.
What were you saying, Dustin?
Oh, the Tukiad book with the combined arms stuff is it just seems like that's how you turn your classic game into an Alpha Strike game without
playing Alpha Strike.
Without playing Alpha Strike, yeah.
All the attention is on the mechs, so it's like you're playing Alpha Strike with the vehicles, but you're playing classic with the mechs.
Yep, it's like
yes.
Not everyone is me who can run, multiple level 2s with half their brain.
But this does get those vehicles and infantry out there in a way that that more people can have them in their games and see the beauty of combined arms.
Oh, I love it.
As always, thanks for listening. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach us on Facebook at the Mechbay Podcast. Send us an email at the mechbaypodcast@gmail.com. Check out our new YouTube channel for YouTube versions of our podcast with, like a static picture. And soon we might have some other video content coming down on our YouTube channel. We're also now on Instagram at the Mechbay Podcast. And remember, without your support, we wouldn't be able to afford the subscription to our Hammerheads actuator enhancement system. So, appreciate it.
Bye, everyone. I look forward to bombing you soon. That didn't sound right. Let's not do that.